I think we can say that the broad principles involved in the supervision of men apply equally well in the case of women.
That ain't what I learned about women. Women scare me. At least they do in a factory.
When I was starting out, I got one great piece of advice. Men can be lazy, women can't.
$600 for the day, plus overtime if we go over 8 hours.
What's the trick to making all this work? I'm trying to stay positive. It just, having it all seems a little impossible.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning, all of you, all the way up there. Happy Friday. Good morning. I'm Brooke Baldwin, Women in the World. Yes. We're going to talk about that soon, in just a second, all right? But let me introduce these phenomenal women. I'm Brooke with CNN. I'm on every day from 2 to 4. I started a women's series. I am all about providing voice to women in this country and around the world. I have with me Ibtihaj Muhammad, Olympic medalist, activist, and entrepreneur. Hi. Yes. Bozoma Saint John, Chief Marketing Officer for Endeavor. Yes. Carolyn Tastad, Group President of P&G North America. Good to have you. And Melissa Bradley, Managing Partner of 1863 Ventures. Good to have you as well. So what we're about to tell, we're myth-busting, ladies. We're myth-busting. Some myths that women lack confidence, that, we'd love to hire more women in STEM, but there just aren't enough who are interested. Or, equality means bad news for men. False. So let's myth-bust. Starting, Miss Sparkles, starting with you. And yes. I want to come on to everyone because, this is about equality. And when you look at the five of us, may I say badasses at Women in the World? I mean, incredibly accomplished women, but yet, let's talk bias. And we've all had our moments. And I mean, when was the last moment you had where you were essentially like, really? In 2019?
You mean like this morning?
Tell me the story.
It's hard being black out here, okay? No, this is a conversation that is not even something that I consider surprising, or it's like, try to think of a time when there was some bias, because it literally is every day. Mm-hmm. It's like I took a flight yesterday. Most of the time, I'm in first class because I'm cute, and I can. And all of the time, I get the look or the question. I'm not wearing a sparkly suit, but I am not necessarily seen as someone who belongs there.
You can tell just from people passing you by.
Oh, well, sometimes it's verbal. Mm-hmm. It's you're standing in the queue getting ready to go, and they say, okay, group one, and somebody inevitably tries to move me aside. It happens all the time. Mm-hmm. Mm. And then I just have to use some expletives.
Yeah.
Kick a little ass.
Yeah.
And I move along.
Kick a little ass and we move along.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Ibtihaj, how about you?
Well, Boz and I fought over the sparkly suit this morning. I did not win, so I went with the red. But it's interesting that Boz tells the story of just flying. Flying can be very triggering.
Yeah.
And not just standing in line waiting to board the plane and, being told, excuse me, we're boarding business first. But even for me, going through TSA can be really triggering. I feel like now it's become a norm to profile at the airport when it comes to TSA, and to pull, women aside who wear hijab, or even Sikh men who cover for religious reasons. And I feel like because it's happening so often, we forget that it's profiling at the end of the day, to target someone because of what they wear. And the way I've always seen it is, or the way I see it is like, you're pulling me aside because I'm covering my hair, but I feel like there are tons of people who cover their hair, not just wearing hijab, but also people who wear wigs. I'm like, are we patting everybody down, or are we just patting me down?
Right.
Again, I feel like flying for me has been, I would say, difficult. Yeah, it's been difficult, for sure.
Melissa?
Well, this is my uniform. So inevitably when I'm in a store, people think I work there. And they always say, can you tell me where it is? And I go, aisle 20? I don't know. I don't work here. So I think personally, I experience bias every day from flying, even on the train this morning. And I think certainly...
Like what? Don't breeze over that. What happened on the train?
I think people, going, are you getting on the Acela? And I was like, yeah, I'm not riding with everybody else. Yeah, I got places to be. But it also happens, I was on first class, and somebody said, this is the first class line. And I said, allow me to show you my ticket. I'm getting on first class. I also would say that I experienced as a gay woman, people often don't know what to do, or I have many women who pull their purses in. I was like, trust me, I don't think you have enough. I have 6 kids. You don't have enough in there. You can't help me. And so I think there's just a general intimidating factor that people assume comes with who I am and what I look like. And then I think I would say professionally, this happened literally on a call while I was in the car. I work with over 5,000 entrepreneurs across the country, and 90% of them are women. And a gentleman, we're trying to raise a $100 million fund, and the gentleman said to me, well, I don't believe that women are the future when it comes to entrepreneurship. And I said, let me give you one little fact. Entrepreneurship is flatlining because white guys aren't starting businesses, but African-American women are starting businesses 6 times their white male peers. So get the facts, write a check, and move out the way.
Ooh. All right. All right. Love that. Carolyn?
Well, I grew up in our Canadian organization, and the first time I moved to the U.S., I was with my very first all-male lead team. Now, my dad was a farmer, my mom was a teacher. My dad vacuumed way more than my mom ever vacuumed. And so I grew up in a fairly equal house. And so when I moved to this all-male lead team, my very first all-male lead team, my boss the first day said, we're so excited to have you here because you're going to bring diversity to our team. And I stopped for a minute and I went, oh, because I'm Canadian. And I said that out loud. And everybody looked at me and laughed, and I thought, oh, okay, apparently I made a joke. And it was probably 2 months later that I went, oh, it's because I was a woman. And I just hadn't connected it. So wow. I think the issue is there's bias everywhere. We all have bias and we all encounter it every day. I think the question for all of us as leaders in our personal lives or in business is what do we do to really counter it, and how do we mitigate it? How do we become self-aware so that we can do something about it?
I want to come back to you on that point, but if I can just put a button on this whole conversation, and speaking of first class in an airplane, people may wonder why you're in first class. I'm sitting like 4 rows, this is maybe 6 months ago, behind Boz, and I'm a total stalker. And I'm telling the story to out myself as a nerd and a fan, but also I followed this woman off the plane all the way from New York to Los Angeles. We land. I am that girl running after her because I wanted to stop her and say thank you. I wanted to say thank you, and you were so lovely with me. And just for all the times that you think you don't belong, there are also young women saying, hell yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hell
Thank
yes.
You. Thank you. But Brooke, I did, when you ran up on me, I did grab my bag, though. I was like, see? And then, I don't know you.
I was like, I come in peace. Back to representation, because Carolyn, you say, don't fix the women, fix the system. What does equality mean for you?
Equality for me means representation, right? We talk about it at P&G as equal voice, equal representation, all the way throughout the organization. And this whole notion of bias continues to perpetuate, and that's okay because we all have bias, right? We all have it. But what's really important is for us to, as leaders, broaden our perspective, build our own self-awareness, and then be very intentional in our actions. I was on a panel in January with a CEO who is very committed to gender equality, and he was telling the story of hiring a CFO, and he got down to his 2 final candidates, a male and a woman, man and a woman, and he asked them both the same question. And he said, we have a corporate tax rate, I'm making the numbers up, of 28%. We got to get it down to 22%. Can you get that done? And the man said, absolutely. And the woman said, I don't have enough information to give you an answer to that question. Now, his instinct, because our bias is to default to what's the standard prototypical or stereotypical behavior of a leader, he very openly said, my bias was to go with a guy. But he said, through very intense reflection, intentional discussions with my executive team, I hired her, and it was a great decision. So this notion of bias is very pervasive, and we have to stop labeling women's behavior as less than or lacking simply because it shows up different from that male prototype. And that's this notion of don't fix the women, fix the system.
You, my new friend, have become this cultural icon. And there's this whole myth that women lack confidence, which you bust on through. Where does your confidence come from?
I would say that my confidence I developed as a young kid. And after being bullied and being told that I didn't belong in certain spaces, I think that it kind of forced my confidence to grow. I remember my mom telling me at a young age to stop crying and, you know, to stop or don't absorb, you know, the things that people may say to you, and don't be a sponge, but really try to repel those things that you may hear that are often not true, and oftentimes being made to feel as if I was a square trying to fit into circle spaces, I decided that I was just going to do my own thing. And
where did that come from? Just something within you?
I'm like super type A personality. I don't like to wait for other people to get things done. I'd rather just do it myself.
Yeah.
And I think that, and also coming from a really large family, I'm one of 5 kids. I'm very, very competitive. And, you know, luckily for me, I come from parents that just found the importance of sport and putting their kids in sport. But I think that sport taught me so much about myself. And
like what?
I would say that in not only learning a lot about yourself and what you're capable of and owning your strengths, like I was told that I had really big legs when I was younger, and I learned to use those strong legs to win myself an Olympic medal. So
okay, hello.
Yeah, I feel like I've learned to kind of own the things that I've been told have been, you know, wrong with me. Like as women, it's like if you know what you want, you know, like, oh, she's a bit bitchy, right? Or, you know, like you're strong-minded, and it's like, well, these are the things that if I were a guy, it would be labeled differently. And I think through sport, I've been able to develop the strong sense of self and kind of own the strength that I have. But also, I've learned to appreciate, you know, my teammates and the women that are around me. And I think
we need them.
We need them.
Isn't that incredible?
Oh yeah, and I think that that's something that we should all take from this, is that the importance of building and uplifting one another, especially as women. And I think that that's something easy we can do for our girls, is put them in sport. It teaches you so much about yourself, but also so much about your peers.
Amen. Amen. Melissa, I read you're just back from Asia?
Yes.
State Department trip. Promoting entrepreneurship in Southeast Asia.
Which means we were in the back of the plane. Let me just be really
clear. Back of the plane. Just this one time. Just this one time. So you're a venture capitalist. Are you having a tough time finding female entrepreneurs?
Absolutely not. What I'm having a tough time, though, is finding women who are willing to stand up and articulate how much money they need, not how much money they think they can get.
Why are we having a tough time doing that?
Well, I think we all grew up in where our family were probably the champions of us, but no one else was. And I think despite the fact that women control 85% of the purse strings in the world, we're typically told we're not good with numbers, we're not good with science and math, you don't deserve it, you don't know what to do with it. And the reality is that now that various organizations have shown statistics, women businesses outperform men. We fail less, we save money more, and we actually make money more. But despite those statistics, I think there's a natural fear when people walk in a room, which, let's be clear, this is not the vision of a typical venture capitalist in terms of being black or in terms of being a woman. There's a natural intimidation. And I would say, having been the entrepreneur seeking capital, I cannot tell you how many times a gentleman would say to me, "You remind me of my daughter." Now, I knew that was bullshit, but because I didn't look like any of them unless I was adopted and it was like different strokes. But the reality was it was going to be a setup, because when I looked around and I would say, "Well, say more, tell me about your family," they would speak so highly about their sons, and basically they were just trying to have their daughters get an MRS degree. And so I knew that we were going to be in trouble. And I think, as an entrepreneur, you were consistently vulnerable, and anytime you have to ask somebody for something, particularly money, you just forget. You tend to forget your power. You tend to forget what you have to offer. And so I think that's something that we've got to really work with women to be really clear.
What would you tell women out there,
One, practice your pitch.
Practice your bitch.
Practice your pitch.
I was like, what?
P.I.
I know we're going there today.
I was with you.
You can do both. You can do both. You can do both. You can do both. Because you will need some attitude. You will need some attitude. But I would also say, come up with the most obnoxious, extravagant number that you think you're worth, and own it. Because there are guys coming out of Stanford and Harvard who can't spell, who can't write, who can't even put a deck together, and they're valued at $50 billion. We should be 100 times that.
So imagine that baller number. Such great advice. That's such great advice. Boz, for you on...
Wait, I'm sorry. Let's pause. I'm practicing my bitch right now, so I can't... I don't know if I'm ready for your question. Okay.
Tina Brown's backstage like, oh God, why did you do that? You talk about don't be afraid to hire yourself.
Yes.
So go back to your time at Apple. Was it 4 black women in a row?
Well, no, there was me.
Yes. But you hired several.
Yes.
And HR came to you.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Tell me that story.
Well, it's actually really funny, because as we talk about diversity, inclusion, and what it should look like, and how we should hire, and the practice, et cetera, I feel like there is always like an escape clause for me, because I walk into the room and very rarely does it look like, anyone who reflects my community or my friends or my circle. And so I decided, focus group of one, team of one, I'm gonna just hire myself again and again and again and again and again. And not literally, obviously, in terms of my creative ability or what I bring to the table, but if I want to increase the numbers of diversity, or especially black women in tech, I'm gonna do it myself. And so as I looked at the resumes that were not diverse candidates, I just started pulling from my group of friends. Started pitching them, and I was like, girl, what you doing today? You like your job? You don't like your job. Come on. And then
Where was I during this time?
Don't worry. You on the short list. Don't worry. I got your number. But what was so interesting to me was that, I hired the first black woman I hired. It was like, okay, great, fantastic. Oh, we didn't even know she existed. I was like, I know, I got her. And then the second one, it was like, okay. The third one, it was like everybody kind of paused. And then by the time the fourth one came along, I got the call, which was like, is there anything...
Got the call from HR.
Yeah. Is there anything wrong with the candidates that we are sending you?
Oh, no.
And I was like, no, totally fine. They're like, well, it seems as if you're hiring a certain type of person. And I was like, yes, you are correct. And then they were like, well, is there any way that we can help to make sure that we're looking at a broad range of candidates so that you have a wider pool of people to hire? And I was like, did you tell homeboy down the hall that? Did you tell him that he shouldn't hire any more white men? Because I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to get to a clip, PNG, on Gillette. And this is all about toxic masculinity, and men need to be part of this conversation. So let's all watch this amazing ad.
We believe in the best in men.
Men need to hold other men accountable.
Smile, sweetie. Come on. To say the right thing. To act the right way.
Not cool, not cool.
Some already are. In ways big
Yo, men.
and small.
I am strong.
But some is not enough.
Is that how we treat each other, okay? Okay.
Because the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow.
Man.
Beautiful. We need our men, and we need our men part of this conversation too. What do you want folks to know about that?
Honestly, I'm really proud of the Gillette team and the work that they did on this. And we know for all of our brands that it's really important to take a stand. It's so important for our consumers, for our employees, for stakeholders of all kinds. And the Gillette team absolutely did this. And they really wanted to have a voice on toxic masculinity. And the ad, this is what a lot of people don't understand, the ad is actually called We Believe. It's a very positive statement because we believe in the very best of men. We believe in the positive role model that they can be for the next generation. And we believe that you must stand out against harassment and bullying and any marginalization of anybody in the community. And that's what the Gillette team did. The intent behind that ad was to spark a conversation. And we did that. So
yeah, you did.
It was great.
Yes.
Yeah, you did. Our time is almost up, so I just really, for all the women watching from all over, just a quick, your best one piece of advice for women at work.
We're starting with me.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I think one thing that I've carried with me from, I would say, those moments of doubt and fear, especially in embarking on qualifying for my first Olympic team. There was something that my mom told me when I was younger that I've carried with me, and that's to be my own biggest cheerleader and to be my own biggest support system. As women, too often we wait for permission from others to be successful and to chase down our dreams. And I think it's time that we take hold of what we want, and we do it not only for our communities and to better those around us, but to better ourselves and to believe in ourselves. And don't wait for anyone else to tell you that you can have what you are destined to be great at. It's something that you have to own and you have to believe.
Mm-hmm. Be your best cheerleader. Yep. It's great. From your mom. Of course it's from mom.
Yeah.
Those.
Well, actually, this is actually quite appropriate because I just saw Indra Nui backstage before coming on, and she was the chairwoman of PepsiCo. I worked at Pepsi for a decade, and I was so inspired by one of her mantras, which was to bring your full self to work. And for me, it was especially poignant because those at the top never looked like me. They were wearing gray suits. Clearly, I don't like gray suits. No shade to gray suits, I'm just saying it wasn't me. And so right now, I practice and work very hard at making sure that, not just superficially, but really innately, that I bring my full self all the time to every situation. So it may be casual Friday, but darling, I'm wearing some glitter today.
It's gorgeous.
Excellent.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Carolyn?
A little twist on it. I would love to give a little bit of a tip to men and women. And one of the things that we do internally and that I have been starting to do to tackle bias is something I call flip the pronouns. And so I did this with one of our hair care teams probably a couple of months ago, and they came to me with an ad campaign. But the proposed tagline at the end of the ad campaign was, "When she looks good, she can be her best." And I said, okay, hang on for a minute here. Let's just flip the pronoun. And it was a male marketing lead. And I said, now I want you to say that tagline again with the same fervor and passion with he in the line. And he started with, and when he looks good, and he couldn't finish the sentence. And he started laughing, and I said, if you can't finish the sentence with he instead of she, please don't say it for women.
That's right.
And so, flip the pronoun.
It's great.
Love that.
I love that.
Love that.
Use that. I'm going to say, you also made, we have 6 kids, 4 girls and 2 boys. You made my boys so proud. They have nothing to shave, but they were so proud.
Excellent.
I would say that this, what women need to do, and men, but particularly women, is what this is about, which is find a good group of friends, but a crew. But make sure of that group you have two things, and we practice this in our family. You need a pillow and a mirror. Life is not going to get any better fast enough as we want it, but it will get better, and you need someone that's going to hold you, listen, cry with you, and support you. But at the same time, you don't want to lose sight of who you are, so you need a mirror to remind you how badass you are and how you deserve to be where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Beautiful.
Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, ladies.